20 as we are trying to stay on time today as we have a long day with a lot of great interviewees. Our next up, Tom from No Heat Call Tommy. Thomas Fregaeu owns and operates No Heat Call Tommy in 1991. He earned an Associate's in Science in Heat and Powers and Air Conditioning Technology from Springfield Technical Community College. A lifelong resident of Chicopee, Thomas is licensed in oil burner technology, air conditioning technology, and construction supervision. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, good morning.
So we have a lot of great young minds today that are very intrigued with a whole bunch of different types of companies and backgrounds and employment opportunities. We have a couple questions for you today. First of which would be, could you share your career path with us?
Sure. So I started with Chicopee High School. I'm a lifelong resident of Chicopee, so I went to Chicopee High School. From there, I went to STCC, Springfield Technical Community College. My degree is in heat, power, and air conditioning. The power is power plant. Then I graduated with an associate's degree from there. My first job I went on with a company called Johnson Insulation. I was estimating the removal of insulation, asbestos primarily. I was getting trained for that. At the time when I left, there were no openings in the oil business at the immediate time that I graduated. But then I moved on to Punderson Oil. A job came available about a year later, and I moved on to Punderson Oil. I spent about almost 4 years with Punderson. Then I moved to Coolidge Oil in Chicopee, their local company. And I did about 4 years with them. And then in 1996, in April of 96, I decided to leave and I started my own business. And, I'm primarily an oil burner, oil, gas, heat repairman. In the summers, there is some air conditioning involved, central air conditioning. And the rest is history. I've been doing this 24 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I think this is an important topic today for a lot of our students that are tuning in today because, not necessarily everyone thinks about trades when opportunities into the professional world, but there's a lot of opportunities. Could you talk a little bit about what has made you successful in some of those habits that you've kind of abided by over your career?
Sure. Yes, there are a lot of opportunities for tradesmen. You look around, you don't even realize it unless you're young, I guess, and you think, well, how do you become that person? So some of the habits I've had, are just good values. You got to remember that, for one thing, you're valuable. When you get a job, when you get educated and then you get your job and you're getting in the trades, any job, whether it's a trade or not, that you're valuable. Remember that you're a valuable person. You need to show up for work. You need to be on time. You need to be rested and just ready to go, ready to do your job. People rely on you. You're not only your employer, but the people you're servicing. They've called the company for some kind of help, some kind of service, something to repair that might be broken, and they're relying on you too to go there and work on that, to repair that. So some of the habits. Okay, so some habits. You just learn to talk to people. I meet people every day that I've never met in my life. I get new customers all the time that call up, whether they're just a one-time repair or they're every year after that. I talk to people like I've known them for years, just friendly, just simple, everyday, friendly talk to them. I don't treat them like strangers. I talk to them like they're a neighbor or a friend, maybe even a relative sometimes, Beyond that is just, trade things. If you're going to work in someone's house, pick up your mess, clean up after yourself. When you go to someone's house, you need to learn how to listen to people. listen to what the problem was. Why are you there in the first place? What went wrong? What happened? So know when to listen, know when to talk, know when to ask questions. Um, uh,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think those are all great points.
yeah.
And
Uh,
so I think kind of piggybacking off of that, some of us have learned, through our professional careers from the hard way, having made some mistakes. Are there some mistakes that you made along the way that you can kind of look back at and wish you did a little differently?
oh, there's always mistakes. In the beginning, I didn't take out liability insurance when I first went on my own. I didn't, and I always, and it wasn't for a long time, but the short time that I didn't have liability insurance, I felt a little nervous, that I wasn't doing things right. But part of it was I didn't even know where to get my liability insurance, and I realized, well, I get that from the same guy that gives me the insurance on my vehicles and stuff. So a lot of things I think are kids don't realize where to go to get what they need, you know. And certainly I was older when I went on my own. You're not expected to go to college and then you're 22 years old, let's say, and you open your own business. That's, you want to get some knowledge behind you, some work, some field work behind you. But at some point down the road, if you do choose to go on your own, there's always those questions of where do I get this or where do I get that, or even going to stick. I was out of high school. Just a short story. I didn't know how to even sign up for college. No one ever told me where to even go. It was a friend of mine that happened to go to stick already, and he took me over to the registrar's office and signed me up. And took an entrance exam from there and got things going from there. But that was never explained to me. I was terrified when I was a kid because I didn't know. I wanted to take a trade, but I didn't know how to start it. That's simple. But mistakes. Well, okay. For instance, I'm a contractor for the Valley Opportunity Council. They're a state-funded corporation that helps low-income people, mostly elderly. And I didn't seek them out early enough. I knew that they were there, but I didn't seek out becoming a contractor for them early enough. So there's avenues in this business, not only heating, but electrical, installation companies. There's state programs that will hire you to do services for their clients, which are the elderly or people that lower income. Okay, so it's guaranteed money. It pays just the same, but there's little hiccups with it. You got to wait maybe a little bit longer to get paid, but the money's always there. So there are trades that you can get work from state agencies, which is nice to fill in the gaps. If you're getting personal, if you're getting jobs through regular people that and that kind of dies off, that you can go looking to the state aided jobs, to help you out.
Excellent. What about, as all these students are watching today, as some may enter different pathways, what do you think in general it means to be a good leader, or in this case, maybe taking the ability to be that leader and starting your own business?
Well, to be a good leader, well, one thing for kids, like when I started, I remember when I started, I was one of the newer guys at Punderson, and first, to be a good leader, you have to look to your colleagues and single out the people that are leaders and see what makes them leaders. Again, a lot of them just knew when to listen to what's going on, in both aspects of listening to your direct boss to see what they're looking to have done. And then when you go to the customer's house, to listen to what they're looking to have done and make sure the two of them jive, they also need to, once you start learning your trade, you should be able to share tips. You shouldn't just hold everything to yourself thinking that if I share my tips with the next guy, he's going to be looking to take my job or something. It really doesn't necessarily work that way. You learn something, you see a guy doing something wrong, or person, man, woman, you see them doing something wrong, just intervene, just talk to them, say, I did that way one time, this way's easier, or this is the right way to do it, not that way, or you shouldn't say this, and and just basic things like that. You should pass that on. You should be able to talk to your colleagues too, just again, as a friend, or like a family member. You should be able to put yourself in a position where you're not condescending to them, but you can correct them or give them an idea of how to do something better, an easier path to do it. Personally, to be a better leader, I've often thought this, especially as I'm getting older, is I'd like to teach a night class somewhere. And I want to pass on my knowledge to younger people getting into my trade, is what I'd like to do.
Awesome. What do you think some of the challenges the next generation is going to face getting into their professional careers?
Oh, the challenges. Well, in the trades anyway, there's going to be too much work. There's not enough people getting into the trades. And it's not just heating, it's electrical, plumbing, carpentry, anything, asbestos removal, carpentry, roofing, anything like that. The tradespeople are going to be hurting. They're really going to be hurting in the next 10 years. And we know this because we can see the age of the average tradesman right now, like electricians or plumbers or heating contractors. I personally don't know any heating contract, any oil man. We call ourselves oil men sometimes. We work for oil companies. And I don't see any younger people getting into this business. And I'm 53 years old, so I'm more looking for my exit plan than anything right now. Like my colleagues that are in their 50s, I know plenty of people 50s and 60s. There's just no younger people getting into the trades, and I don't know. I gotta believe they just don't know where to go to get into the trades, or they've never thought about it. Everyone pushes college. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. Well, guess what? You don't have to go to college. Okay. There are trade high schools out there. Chicopee Comp and Chicopee is a trade high school. I often tell myself when I was younger that I should have had the courage to go to Chicopee Comp, because I didn't know anyone going to Chicopee Comp. All my friends were going to Chicopee High. And even then I knew I should have went to Chicopee Comp. I could have taken up electrical or carpentry or something down that avenue. But go to the trade high schools, and they give a very good education. They really do. I worked with one gentleman at an oil company that came right out of high school, 18 years old, and got a position with an oil company. And right out of the gate, this is 30 years ago, he was making, very good money. Very good money. He was making the same money that someone that had been there, for 10 or 20 years. We were all on a scale because we were union. So,
yeah. Thomas, I think I'll kind of segue that into the last question we have while we have you. If you can kind of go back to when you were 16, what advice would you give yourself at that point, headed into your professional career?
Well, again, to reiterate, I would have gone to trade school. Everyone I knew was going to Chicopee High, and I just really didn't know anybody on that side of the city. That I thought I would have been alone there, and I might have been, but I would have made friends. I would have made friends. So I definitely would have gone to trade school. Okay. For
Excellent.
sure.
Do you have any questions for Tom? Anyone or any of the classes? You got about a minute left. Thank you, Tom, for your time today and doing this. Do we have a question in Mrs. Hawley's class?
No?
Oh, we got somebody.
Oh,
Jen, if we could unmute Mrs. Holly's class, please. Oh, there you go.
All right, Lindsay, you're on.
What made you want to do heating out of all the jobs you could have chose? What made you want to do that job?
okay, that's a good question. So when I was younger, I was probably 10 years old. It was the middle of winter, and my father owned a apartment building, a 6-family apartment building that we lived in, and we didn't have any heat that night. So he calls up the oil company that provided us the fuel oil, and the technician came over, and it was actually a rotted pipe. And this gentleman, it took a couple hours. I remember being down there with them. My father, praying that he could fix it. Otherwise, he'd have to change the whole boiler, which was going to be thousands of dollars. And this gentleman, cut the pipe out, he rebuilt it, put it back together, filled it with water, and everything worked. It was probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night when he finished, and my father thought he was, a god. And that stuck with me, I guess, for years. And that's how I chose the heating business.
That's
So,
true.
if we do have a minute left, so all I would want to say is if you're a kid that turns a light switch on and thinks, how did that just work? What makes that work? Or they open a water faucet and they think, how does the water come out of this faucet? Or they look at the power lines on all the poles and say, well, how is that distributed through a whole city? A trade might just be what you are looking for. Okay, not everyone goes to college. Okay, if you're intrigued by how things work and not just complacent with it, they do work. If you're interested in how it works, you see the wires in your basement and the electrical panel, and you think, how does that work? Well, maybe you could find out how it works.
Absolutely. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, Tom. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us over the last